Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving headfirst into a pretty wild digital phenomenon. It's this space where time just kind of stops, where obscure pop culture suddenly feels like the most important thing in the universe. You know that feeling when you realize you've just spent your whole evening learning about something you didn't even know existed? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're exploring the deep dive digital media landscape, specifically the architecture of the video essay. I mean, seriously, ask yourself, why on earth do millions of us willingly fall down the YouTube rabbit hole at 3 a.m. to watch these incredibly long, hyper-specific documentaries? Take Kevin Perjurer's channel, Defunctland. He put out a nearly 2-hour documentary that literally just traces the history of Disney's FastPass system. But here's the thing, it actually covers class warfare, human behavior, and capitalism. And people are absolutely glued to it. How exactly does a deep dive about waiting in line become a total masterpiece? To figure that out, here is our roadmap. We're going to cover 1, the video essay phenomenon, 2, the evolution of digital documentaries, 3, the creator as narrative, 4, outsiders and digital aesthetics, and finally, platform pitfalls and plagiarism. So let's jump right into section 1, the video essay phenomenon and these niche digital obsessions. You see, the real hallmark of a fantastic video essay is how it makes you care deeply about something incredibly niche. We're talking about everything from a 5-hour breakdown of the Nickelodeon show iCarly to Dan Olson's deep dive into the psychology of flat earthers, or maybe Alexius Gionde exploring the rich cultural history of Black American food. We've got Jacob Geller making us completely question our perceptions with Who's Afraid of Modern Art, and of course Jenny Nicholson dropping a nearly 3-hour magnum opus on the Vampire Diaries. It's just this staggering juxtaposition of high and low culture. And honestly, the sheer scale of these projects is mind-blowing. 5 hours, 34 minutes, and 58 seconds. That is the runtime for just part 1 of YouTuber Quentin Review's analysis of the Nickelodeon show Victorious. These creators treat pop culture with this rigorous, almost obsessive detail. They're dissecting every single episode, breaking down network failures, and analyzing the psychology of child stars. It is an absolute, unwavering commitment to the bit. Moving on to section 2. The evolution of digital documentaries, looking at the journey from shorts to epics. This whole structural and academic evolution of the medium, well, it definitely didn't happen overnight. If we look back around 2008 or 2009, written critics started migrating over to visual platforms like YouTube. Then by 2013, creators like Ryder Burgeon, who goes by Foot of a Ferret, found massive success with a really rapid 3-minute brief history recap format. Now, fast forward to 2023, and those quick little histories have fully transformed into highly produced, feature-length digital documentaries. So why exactly did this massive shift happen? Well, back in 2009, movie critic Matt Zoller Seitz actually hit the nail on the head. He pointed out that written critics always had to rely on approximations. The one thing they just couldn't do was quote, the object of criticism. And the video essay completely solved that problem. It allowed creators to pull from the media directly, pairing their witty analysis with actual, undeniable visual proof. Okay, section 3, the creator as narrative. This is all about avatar and personality. When you look closely, you can kind of categorize these creators into a few distinct archetypes. First up is the academic, like Dan Olson of Folding Ideas. He uses this very formal, deconstructive approach for topics like NFTs or the 50 Shades of Grey books. Contrast that with the theatrical, like Natalie Wynn over at ContraPoints. She uses these incredibly decadent, highly ornamented sets and costumes for her philosophical deep dives. And then you have the media archaeologist, like Sagan Hawks, who uses this atmospheric, almost lo-fi style to dig into internet-native folklore and digital horror. Basically, the messenger is the message. And this whole dynamic brilliantly illustrates a massive power shift happening in media today. Just compare traditional academic journals to modern video essays. Academic journals, they're usually locked behind expensive paywalls, written in really dense language, and let's be honest, they're pretty inaccessible to the general public. But the modern video essay takes that exact same level of rigorous cultural critique and makes it free, visually engaging, and highly approachable. It's literally putting education back into the hands of the everyday consumer. A perfect example of this, and something we really need to highlight, is the highly celebrated essay titled Who's Afraid of Modern Art by Jacob Geller. Geller takes a truly dense, highbrow academic concept, specifically the analysis of objective standards in art and how certain aesthetic critiques have historically tied into fascist ideologies, and he makes it completely riveting for a mass audience. He brings real nuance to a conversation that could so easily become dry or overly academic. It just proves that everyday viewers are incredibly hungry for complex, philosophical content, as long as it's presented in an engaging way. All right, Section 4, Outsiders and Digital Aesthetics, focusing on digital isolation. Have you ever heard the term halcyon horror? Creators like Daniel Bolio use this highly specific aesthetic, think retro blocky PS1-style graphics and that hypnotic television static, to tell stories. In his project Boreal Tenebrae, which is set in this isolated, dying town, the horror isn't some generic monster. The real horror is a critique of systemic capitalism. He uses this distinct digital style to explore the psychological toll on rural populations that have been left behind by technological progress, all while they stare at idealized corporate life through glowing screens. And hey, speaking of the weird and abstract, consider the channel Unfavorable Semicircle. This was a totally anonymous channel that just started uploading thousands of videos back in 2015. We're talking pixelated graphics, distorted audio, or sometimes just absolute silence. In fact, one video was completely silent for 11 straight hours. But it captured the public imagination entirely through its cryptographic complexity. It really proves the medium's boundless capacity for avant-garde experimental art that just throws all traditional broadcast rules out the window. And that brings us to Section 5, Platform Pitfalls and Plagiarism, or what we might call the structural dark side. So this platform vulnerability tends to play out in 3 distinct steps. Step 1, unlike traditional academia, YouTube has absolutely no institutional peer review process. Step 2, this open network environment has unfortunately allowed for systematic intellectual property theft. We've seen massive channels straight up lift the written work of queer historians, journalists, and smaller producers without giving any attribution whatsoever, which leads us to Step 3. This all exploded in December 2023 with Hbomberguy's huge investigative documentary, Plagiarism in YouTube. The fallout there was immense. It led to major channels closing down and really exposed the platform's complete lack of internal content verification. Now, this lack of oversight is particularly crucial to understand when you look at the topics being discussed. Video essayists routinely tackle highly politically and socially charged subjects. For instance, ContraPoints explores transphobia and the ethics of cancel culture. Defunctland touches on systemic capitalism and class warfare, while Kajijambo analyzes the commodification of women's bodies. These are complex, highly nuanced cultural arguments from all sides of the spectrum, but because there's no traditional editorial oversight, viewers are left entirely on their own to navigate these waters, fact-check the claims, and synthesize the arguments independently. So that brings us to our final point, and a question I really want to leave you with. We often feel like we're making active choices when we click on a 5-hour video about a 2010 teen sitcom. But if the algorithm is constantly curating our curiosities and carefully feeding us these highly specific rabbit holes, who is really directing the documentary? Are we actually seeking out this knowledge? Or is the platform simply designing our 3 a.m. learning habits for us? It's definitely something to think about the next time you find yourself utterly captivated by the history of theme park fast passes. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep asking questions.